Here is a trick that sounds impossible. Take a cheap, fast AI model, the kind you would normally never trust, with a hard architectural decision, and let it borrow the brain of the smartest model on earth, but only for the 2 or 3 seconds where the decision actually matters. You pay the cheap rate for almost all of the work, and the genius rate only for the thinking. Anthropic just shipped this. It is called the advisor tool, and it quietly rewrites the economics of building with AI. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how it works, when to reach for it, and the settings that decide whether it saves you money or silently burns it. Let me show you. Every team building with AI lives inside the same painful triangle. Fast, cheap models like Haiku are wonderful for volume, but on a genuinely hard task, they will confidently march straight down the wrong path. Big models like Opus make brilliant decisions, but running every single step through them is slow and expensive. So you are forced to choose cheap and occasionally dumb, or smart and costly. The advisor tool refuses that choice. It puts two models on one task: a fast executor that does the bulk of the work, and a higher intelligence advisor that the executor can quietly consult in the middle of thinking, right at the fork in the road. Picture a fast runner carrying a task down a track. That runner is the executor. It is quick, it is cheap, and most of the track is a straight line it can handle on its own. But every so often, the track splits and one of the branches is a dead end that the runner cannot see yet. At exactly that fork, the runner stops and calls up to an advisor standing high above the track. A slower but far wiser mind that can see the whole map at once. The advisor studies everything the runner has done so far, hands down a short plan, and the runner sprints on, now heading down the right branch. That is the entire idea. A grandmaster whispering one move into a fast player's ear. Now, here is what actually happens inside a single request, and it is beautifully simple. You give the fast model your normal tools plus one special tool called advisor. The executor decides all on its own when the moment is right. And when it calls the advisor, something unusual happens. It sends no input at all, an empty call. Because behind the scenes, Anthropic's servers quietly take the entire conversation so far, your instructions, every tool result, everything the model has written this turn, and hand that whole transcript to the advisor model. The advisor thinks in private, under its own instructions, with no tools and nothing to distract it. And it sends back a short piece of guidance. Its private reasoning is thrown away. Only the advice comes back. And here is the part that makes it feel like magic. All of this happens inside one single API call. You do not run two models yourself. You do not manage a handoff. You send one request to the fast model, and somewhere in the middle of writing its answer, it pauses, consults the genius, and keeps going, all before the response ever lands back in your hands. From the outside, it looks like one model simply answered. Underneath, two of them collaborated. The fast one did the typing. The smart one made the call that mattered. Let me show you how little code this actually takes, because that is the best part. You are already calling the fast model. Say that is Sonnet. You add just one entry to your tools list. Its type is advisor, and inside it, you name the model you want as your advisor. Say that is Opus. You switch the feature on with a single beta header, and that is it. No new endpoint, no second client, no glue code. Your fast model now has a genius on speed dial. When it decides to call, you will see a server tool use block with an empty input, followed by an advisor result block carrying the advice. You pass that whole thing back on the next turn, exactly like any other message, and the conversation just continues. There is one rule you have to respect, and it is pure common sense. The advisor has to actually be smarter than or at least as smart as the worker. You cannot have a genius take orders from a beginner. So the advisor must be Sonnet 4.6 or stronger and never weaker than your executor. The classic pairings are the ones you would guess. If you run Sonnet on hard tasks today, bolt Opus on as the advisor, and you often get a real lift in quality at similar or even lower total cost. If you run Haiku and you want a genuine step up in intelligence, give it Opus as its advisor. It costs more than Haiku on its own, but far less than moving everything over to a big model. Now, let me do something a little strange and completely on theme. Let me call my own advisor. Watch. I am going to pause this video right in the middle and consult the smartest model I have about what I should say to you next. The whole transcript goes up, it thinks, and the advice comes back. Here it is, word for word. The single highest value move for this viewer is to subscribe, because the entire point of this channel is to hand them the newest, most powerful AI capabilities the moment they ship, explained plainly enough that they can actually build with them. So there it is, straight from the advisor. If that is what you came for, subscribe here on YouTube. And keep in mind, subscribing on YouTube is not the same as following me on Facebook. So if we only know each other over there, come and join me here too. I also post the fastest versions of all of this on Instagram and Facebook. All right, the advisor and I are agreed. Back to the build. So when should you actually reach for this and when should you not? The advisor shines on long winding tasks, coding agents, computer use, multi-step research. The kind of work where most of the steps are mechanical, but one or two early decisions quietly decide whether the whole thing succeeds or falls apart. That is exactly where a single moment of genius pays for itself many times over. But it is a weak fit for a few things. A single question with a single answer, where there is nothing to plan, simple lookups and arithmetic. Or workloads, where, honestly, every step needs the big model anyway. In that last case, just use the big model. The advisor is built for tasks that are mostly easy, with a few genuinely hard corners. Here is the insight most people are going to miss. With the advisor, timing is everything. The advice is most valuable at two very specific moments. The first is early, right after the model has looked around and gathered a little context, but before it commits to an approach. That first call is where the plan gets set. The second is at the very end, right before the model declares the job finished, as a final review of the work it just did. Calling too early, before the model has even read the problem, wastes the advice on an empty transcript. Calling on every trivial step just burns money. For most hard tasks, the sweet spot is 2 to 3 calls, one to plan and one to check. Now, the models do not all behave the same way here, and this is genuinely worth knowing. The fast Haiku model tends to be shy. Left on its own, it often forgets to ask for help on exactly the coding tasks where help would have rescued it. So Anthropic found a simple fix. After Haiku's first move, if it still has not consulted the advisor, you slip in a gentle reminder. One short sentence that says, "You have not asked the advisor yet. If there is a real decision here, ask now." In their testing, that one nudge lifted Haiku's success rate by around 7 points. But here is the twist. That very same nudge does nothing for Sonnet. And it actually makes Opus slightly worse, because Opus already knows when to ask. So nudge the junior and trust the senior. Let me save you some money now, because this is where people get surprised by their bill. The advisor is billed separately at the advisor model's rate for the little bursts of thinking it does. And by default, that thinking can run long. So there is one setting you should almost always turn on. You cap the advisor's output with a max tokens of around 2000. In Anthropic's own testing, That single cap cut the advisor's output by roughly 7 times, with almost no loss in quality. You can also write inside your message. Simply ask the advisor to keep it under 80 words, a focused starting point, not an essay. And if your task runs long and calls the advisor 3 or more times, switch on caching so it stops repaying to reread the same history. Cap it, ask for brevity, cache the long ones, and the advisor stays cheap. Step back for a second and look at what this really is. For years, the trade off was carved in stone. You paid for intelligence by the token, on every single token. The advisor tool breaks that. It lets you spend genius intelligence surgically, only in the exact moments where a decision truly hinges on it. While a cheap, fast model does all of the heavy lifting around it. What you get is something close to top model quality at close to cheap model prices on precisely the long agentic tasks where that gap used to cost you the most. It is one of those quiet features that never makes the headlines, but changes how the very best teams build. And now you understand it before almost anyone else does. To make all of this genuinely usable, I built you a free 1 page playbook for the advisor tool. It has the exact tool block to paste in, the full table of which models are allowed to advise which, the 2 moments to time your calls, and the 3 settings that keep it cheap: the token cap, the brevity line, and catching. To grab it, just comment the word advisor on this video, and my bot will send it straight to you, or use the link down in the description. And if this showed you something new, subscribe here on YouTube and follow Hyper Automation Labs on Instagram and Facebook, because I break down the newest AI capabilities the moment they land. In plain English, you can actually build with. If you want to go further, my beginner guide takes you from zero to building with these tools, and I have deeper guides for Claude Code and more, all linked below. Now, go give your cheap model a genius on speed dial, and I will see you in the next one.